So, hi guys, welcome back to the Scottish Mixed Martial Arts podcast. I'm Martin Hamilton. I'm joined today by Ryan from Fanboy. How you doing, Ryan?
Hi, mate. How's it going? Well, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good, thank you. I was just complimenting off air the backdrop you've got.
That's not bad. To be honest, like I've been meaning to do this for a while, but I just kind of pulled it together this morning because I knew I was coming on with you. So, but I may as well take the opportunity to like show off some of the merch. Always in sales mode.
That's it as well. So, for those that might not know, do you want to give a wee description about Fanboy and what it is?
Yeah. So, Fanboy MMA is a company that works with fighters, basically MMA fighters, uh, building out brands and building it. Using that brand to like tell their story as a fighter and as a person, kind of reflect who they are and their ideals, and we make merchandise off the back of that. And the merchandise is a way for them to generate extra income, but it's also a way for them to like build their own brand. Unfortunately, it'd be good in this day and age if you were just a good fighter, that was all you needed. But being a successful fighter now is about building a brand and building like something that people can connect with. So part of that, the merchandise and the branding and stuff, is to tell their story so that fans of the sport can feel like they can connect to them. So there's a wee bit of that to it as well, and it's also a way to generate like content for social media channels and stuff. So when we're doing stuff to promote the merch, we do a lot of reels and stories and posts and things like that, and try and capture people's imaginations and yeah, and tell the athlete's story basically.
No, absolutely, because that was one of the things that I really liked when I first started seeing your stuff popping up on social media. It was like you had such a array of talented fighters on your roster. Like you were working with guys like Reece McEwan, who's fighting in Cage Warriors, like some of the highest promotions in professional mixed martial arts, and then you were going for that. You had Craig McIntosh as well, who's literally just fought in Bellator, and then with that you were mixing in with a group of very talented up and coming amateurs that you're working with guys like Kunle Loyal. I've recently seen you've just said Sean Clancy's just got on board as well. Uh,
Yeah, he's the first athlete that's reached out to me actually. Like I've got a thing on my website that's like fighter application. If what we do interests them, you can like read about it and fill out a form and we'll contact you and stuff. So usually I go out to people that I see and like because we're just building it now. So I've always reached out to athletes, but that's the first person that's kind of got in touch with me. He's seen a lot of the stuff I was doing with Kunle, and was interested in like doing something similar. So I had a phone call with him yesterday, so it was really nice chatting with him and getting to know him a bit better. And I've got some really cool ideas for merchandise, and I'm also kind of branching out. I'm trying to expand Fanboy a little bit into. I've seen opportunities where we could help athletes not just with the merchandise, but also in terms of how they get sponsorships, how they manage the sponsorships, and how they sell themselves to businesses. So I've been working with like Kunle, for example, on getting a website, improving his Instagram, making it easier to find them online, and then also creating like sponsorship packs and stuff that you can take to businesses that kind of better describe what they can offer to businesses because you know they're selling quite a unique thing where these companies around the world pay for getting a specific kind of group of people, and people like these fighters I work with, they have followers that are a very niche set and group that companies want to kind of reach out to. So it's just about kind of telling businesses the opportunity that's there by sponsoring these athletes, and above anything else, it looks good as well because you're helping the local community, you're helping an up and coming athlete, so I'm helping them with that as well, and I'm going to do some of that with Sean as well.
no, I think what you're doing there is absolutely fantastic because it's quite hard to believe the lack of money that's actually in MMA, especially for the guys who aren't fighting in the likes of the UFC or Bellator. Like the money getting made is pretty small, so they rely a lot on sponsorships. They rely on external venue coming in, and I really liked what you were doing with the amateur fighters because part of what we're missing in Scotland is we're missing like an amateur federation. Like what Ireland have, what England's developing really well, where they're now sending hosts of athletes regularly over to the likes of IMAF, which basically acts as the Olympics for mixed martial arts. Like as an amateur, the IMAF is where you want to be, and you're seeing guys that have competed and done really well in IMAF coming over to professional mixed martial arts and just essentially taking over. Like guys like Jack Shore, Mohammed Makayev, but a big barrier for athletes actually reaching the IMAF. Although we don't have the IMAF in Scotland, you're seeing fighters going through the English channel, but a big barrier's financially because they need to pay. They need to pay to go. They need to pay flights, hotels, medicals. So any kind of external revenue that these fighters can make can really help their careers, even if it is fighting in the likes of the Four Nations tournament, which we've seen Coonley do extremely well. Like,
Yep, yep.
was that a big kind of push factor for you as well, just to kind of allow these athletes to hit their potential?
Yeah, see, if I'm 100% honest, the kind of Scottish scene is fairly new to me in terms of like if you go back to this time last year, Fanboy was about football merch. We created football merch for Scottish football basically, and the idea behind it was I always thought the English Premiership's really good at telling their stories. Like they tell the story and it kind of captures people's imagination, and that's why they get bigger viewerships. And I felt that was missing in Scottish football, so I started creating merchandise that told the story of Scottish football and tapped into like kind of some of the cool like legends of the past and all that kind of stuff. But I realised my passion wasn't there. My passion was in MMA. And then I've been following Chis Duncan for a long, long time. And he's local to me. He's literally like lives up 10 minutes up the road. And I went to go and try and like buy a t-shirt or like I wondered, like, can I support this guy in some way? And realised there was nothing. There was nothing there, and that's when I started thinking, could I change fanboy football into fanboy MMA, follow my passion a wee bit, and also help these athletes. But in terms of like the Scottish scene, it's only recently I'm starting to like really delve into it. Before I was kind of like I watched UFC, and my excuse for like kind of leaving everything else was I don't have time. Like I'm a busy guy, I don't have time to delve into like Bellator and all these other promotions. But since learning about the Scottish scene over the last kind of 8 months, I've been blown away by like the talent and like how nice these fighters are and the community around it and how gyms support other gyms and fighters are going to other. It's just such a cool community like that are awesome. But what I also found out is that these are guys who are doing like full time jobs, have got families. Some are sleeping in gyms, some are like taking time off work to train, and that's kind of when the cog started to turn more and more like what fanboy could become. And yeah, trying to support that kind of and grow that community. I want that to be like a core aspect of who Fanboy is. I actually spoke to Craig McIntosh. The first time I sat down with him, he was kind of explaining to me like his journey and the stuff he's doing with ADCC and all that as well. And he was kind of really enthusiastic and really encouraged me to kind of like keep pushing forward because he could see something in it that could really help athletes. So that was encouraging. But yeah, all the stuff you've mentioned, it's difficult for them, you know. And to me, they're some of the best athletes in the country. You know what they put their bodies through and the sacrifices they make is completely inspiring. And it's just sad that the sport is what it is. And it's not like for me, you should be picking up the Daily Record and seeing back page news on this stuff, you know. But that's just not the way it is just now. So yeah, if I can create a company that can kind of support that community and be a part of that community, then I'd be that would. I mean, that's the main goal for me. Like, it's not. I'm not making massive amounts of money off of this. Hopefully, one day it maybe could turn into something like that. But for just now, I'm focused on creating a company that can help these athletes and maybe like build something within Scotland. And maybe eventually I'll reach out beyond Scotland. But for now, there's so much going on in Scotland. I've kind of kept my focus there.
And I think what you're seeing with the likes of Fanboy coming in and like fighters starting to get merch and a couple of different capacities, like they're getting t-shirts, beanies. Am I right in hearing that you've done beer for Chris Duncan for the
I've got
fights?
it here. I need to send you some. Aye. So again, like some folk might think this is crazy doing a lager for. I've called it London Calling, and it's a pilsner to celebrate Chris Duncan's UFC debut. Because it was such a big event, I was like, I want to do something that's like really different, and it will maybe get people talking and kind of raise. Know that Chris Duncan doesn't need his profile raised; he's doing that on his own. But just something that will like get folk talking about it. So I thought it'd be quite a fun thing to do as a kind of promotional marketing thing. I'm going to sell them, like, so if anybody wants some, DM me. But I've been so busy, I've not got them on. I've not put them up online yet. But yeah, it's just another. I just want to do. The other part of it was just can I get a beer made? How do I go about doing that? Just learning something new, and how does it? Just learning how it works, so that maybe I can do it for another athlete in the future, or like can I make that into a money thing that could then generate income for the athletes? Just trying different stuff, so it's not just always t-shirts and hoodies and stuff. I get an idea in my head and I have to do it, so there's part of that as well. Kind of become obsessed with something.
No, and absolutely. I think you're tapping into a really big part of Scottish culture, whether people
That's true. Aye.
whether people want to admit it or not. Like, a big part of Scottish culture, especially round about watching fights, it becomes like it's a big social aspect for a lot of young guys. A lot of young guys have their friends over to watch the fights. They enjoy it. They have a couple of drinks, maybe they bet on fights, and they make a night of it. Is what I'm trying to say, and it turns into a big social aspect, especially events like UFC 286, which is actually on at a decent time for
Yeah, totally.
a lot of people, and you can, without absolutely destroying your sleep pattern for the next couple of days, you can have that. You can have that. So having things like the Chris Duncan beer, it's really good, and I think you're tapping into a great part of actual Scottish culture.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. That idea of getting together to watch the fights, something I always say, like to my brother and some of my friends who are into MMA and stuff. We wish there was more cards on it, like a better time, because we would all get together and watch them, But it's a great point. Like for this UFC card coming up in London, these are going to be perfect. It's also got like QR codes on it that you scan and it takes you to exclusive Chris Duncan merch. So again, just like giving folk a wee nod to go and get some more merch.
Well, everything that you're saying as well, it sounds like you're really giving the sport and these athletes that legitimacy that I think MMA needs, because people that are people like yourself who are involved round about athletes, know everything they go through and know how legit athletes they are. But unfortunately, there is a part of society that doesn't kind of view MMA or mixed martial artists as legitimately as they should. So when you're talking about the likes of it not being in the daily papers and stuff like that's something that having things like Fanboy and stuff like that, it's changing, creating a shift in culture, because it's starting to make like tap into niches and starts to make like legitimize things and go, wait, this guy's got a merchandise like line. He must actually be a legit athlete. And then they go and they look a wee bit more into them, see the kind of stuff they're doing, and go, holy shit, these are some of the best. These are the best athletes in Scotland, and then it just creates like a kind of ripple effect, and that's how, like, when I was listening to you talking about creating these sponsorship packs for athletes and stuff as well, I was like, that is amazing. Like, just giving these athletes that opportunity to go to different types of businesses when they don't need to rely on friends or always local businesses to support them. They can reach out a wee bit more. So what you're doing is absolutely incredible for these guys.
Those sponsorship packs, like Coonley's just went through a bunch of sponsorship and he's managed to get a few new ones and stuff. I think I'm saying that, but he found it really useful because it allows him to go into a business and actually have something to show them, and it's got data and it's got numbers and figures that shows the businesses what they're getting out of the partnership. So I think it just makes it easier to sell that to businesses as well, and it makes them look a little bit more professional and it looks like they've got their shit together. Sorry, I don't know if I'm going to swear, but
No,
it makes it look like they've got stuff together. Aye. As you say, like you made a good point there about like athletes not getting the legitimacy either. Like MMA fighters are maybe pigeonholed a little bit, and I always remember back in the early kind of UFC days, like Dana used to always talk about how people have a perceived image of MMA fighters, and it was this like human cockfighting, and they're animals, or they're they're from the wrong side of the tracks. And he would say no, they're college educated, they're teachers, they're husbands, and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. And that's so true. Like these guys are proper athletes, man. They're not hooligans and they're not thugs and that. They're like legitimate athletes, and it's about time they got recognised as that. So anything, me, yourself, people in Scotland who are part of this community, and you do a great job of that as well. And all the podcasts, of giving these guys a platform. Anything that the community can do to help these guys, I think is brilliant. And they deserve all the. They deserve more success, and they deserve all the success that they do get.
Absolutely, because especially with the Scottish scene, like the Scottish scene, however good it is, I always feel we're at severe risk of getting left behind. And when you talk to some coaches and you talk to some fighters, it seems that it is a kind of, not a fear there, but it is a realization that without the big pushes legitimising the sport in Scotland, without getting like athletic recognition, so like getting a commission involved and stuff like that to actually help push the sport to the next level. Like because MMA is it's the fastest growing sport in the world, and if you don't grow with it, you'll get left behind. And I think that's a sad reality. And like personally speaking, I think if Scotland don't start to get fit, like teams regularly going to IMAF, teams going to the European Championships, and you're seeing guys in the Scottish scene could beat are going to Europeans and getting gold medals, getting silver medals, and our guys could beat them, but our guys are not getting that opportunity for just lack of opportunity. And what these guys are then getting 4 or 5 fights within a couple of days against the highest level opponents, and then you're getting guys in Scotland who are getting 1 fight a year because no one's going to want to fight them. Like guys, you'd even seen it at professional level with guys like Mark Ewen. Like Mark Ewen can't get matched in some of the biggest promotions in Europe. So, what chance did a lot of the amateurs have?
No, 100%. Yeah. I'm not sure if I've read it right, but I'm sure that IMAF not just released something that says they're not getting funding next year or something like that,
Oh,
or
did
they've
they?
lost, or UFC. I think UFC give them money, don't they? And I don't know the story inside it, but some money has been rescinded. I think a lot of folk have resigned and stuff. I think I read that this morning on Twitter. I might be wrong, but you can see even with that, there's not a whole lot of money in the sport, and that's probably money drives everything. So it's probably it's a difficult thing to solve. But I think you're right. If you don't get solve it, then you do get left behind. Um, I don't know how you solve that, but it's definitely a challenge.
But one of the questions I wanted to ask you as well, and you tapped on it a wee bit there when you said that you originally started with football. So how did you actually get the idea for Fanboy, and how did that originally start?
Fanboy football was just about telling. Like, so I'll give you an example. Right, I'm a Dunfermline supporter, and with great T-shirts like Nolly McCarthy and all that. The other one I did was I don't know if you know he's a polarizing figure, Neil Lennon, but he talked about bringing back the Thunder. So I created T-shirts using quotes from managers and players and things like that, and just did all that. And then it wasn't doing very well, and I ended up sponsoring a podcast called The Voice Bus. I know the guy who runs it called Russell Boyce, and he let me sponsor it for about 3 to 4 months. And off the back of that, I said to him, "How about I do some merch for you?" And my stuff just wasn't selling. Even sponsor, like folk on the show would see it and stuff, and it still didn't sell. And his merch went up, and it sold. It sold loads. Like everybody who watched that podcast bought loads, and that got me thinking. Like, it's not good enough just to put a T-shirt up online and expect people to buy it. There needs to be a community around about it. There needs to be a purpose for it. People need to believe in what you're doing, kind of thing. But what I realised through helping him was that I loved like that. That gave him some financial help with his podcast. He was able to buy new equipment and new Wi-Fi services and things. And that I got a buzz off that, being able to help somebody. And then obviously when I went to go and try and buy Chris Duncan merch and there was nothing, I thought, wait a minute here, maybe I could help these guys. If I can help this podcast guy make some money, maybe these people like Chris Duncan who have already got a following, who have already fought in Bellator and amateur shows right across Scotland and the UK and stuff, like they've got a following, but they're not taking advantage of it almost. And that's I can still remember the night, like I messaged Chris Duncan saying, "Would you fancy a chat about this? A call?" He was actually at American Top Team, and a video messaged him, and we had a chat for a good hour about my plans and things like that. I'll always be grateful to Chris because he was the guy that first came on with me and he took a chance on me, and he's been amazing throughout this whole thing, really supportive. But I always remember that first conversation, like, and told him my plans, and from there it's just kind of growing bit by bit. But that's basically how it started. It started as football merch and then moved into MMA. And to be honest, MMA is like that's my sport. That's the sport I love. Yeah, I enjoy football, but I love MMA, and I think that's what's kept it going and kept it building is because I've not lost interest in it and the passion's there, and seeing that helping athletes as well. Like the feedback I get from the athletes I work with, they appreciate it, and that means a lot as well.
Because one of the questions I wanted to ask you as well is have you actually been overwhelmed with the volume of support, the volume of athletes getting involved with Fanboy MMA? Because it seems like there was that gap in the market, and it seems that you've really went on and smashed it and get involved with the biggest athletes, the biggest names in the country.
Yeah, I mean, more recently, I've been really kind of blown away, more so because things just like yourself contacting me saying, "Do you want to jump on the podcast?" Things like that. Um, because in the early stages, I had Chris, and then I think I got Reece. So I got Chris, and like me and Chris started together in August, and then Reece was October, and then shortly after that, in kind of December time, was Mark Ewan, then Craig, and then Coonley, and then it just seems over the last kind of month and a half, things have really started to take off. More people contacting me, more people asking like what it's about, how do I get involved. So yeah, it just seems like it's building momentum, and like almost every week that passes, something else kicks in. Um, and I'm in a kind of wee transition phase now where I'm thinking, right, I need to streamline some stuff so that it can go to the next level almost. I'm looking at new suppliers to bring costs down so that we can pass more of the profits on to the athletes and stuff like that. So yeah, I've been blown away by how well it's went, and how the community. Every time a sale comes through, I want to hug the person who bought it, because like they're supporting Fanboy, but more importantly, like they're supporting these athletes. I mean, I don't think they buy it because of me; they buy it because of the athletes, you know. So every time I see a sale come through, I'm like, that's somebody actually reaching out and supporting an athlete. I call them athletes, fighters, whatever. But yeah, it kind of warms my heart every time one comes through. So I've been blown away by the support in terms of sales. Been blown away by the community, yourself, you know, reaching out, and you said some nice things in the podcast with Chris and with Craig. I've had other, you know, there's a guy I should shout out called Richard Bragg from Extra Gear, who has been brilliant with me. Like he's gave me advice, you know, support. There's other podcasts as well that have been really nice and shout me out, stuff like that. So I've been blown away by the support, like blown away.
No, absolutely, and it's quite interesting that you mentioned Richard because although what you are doing is different, but his is like fight gear and training gear. You see a lot of kind of similarities in the way that you work with athletes, in the way that you work with athletes as people, and just the care that you put into every kind of bit of product, and the care that you put into the athlete, because that was like when I was hearing about you from Chris and I was hearing about you from Craig. That was what they said all the time. Is this is a guy that really cares about this sport. He really cares about the athlete, and it's no someone that's just in to make a bit of money, make a quick buck. It's a guy that has this care for athletes and is wanting to elevate them as much as elevate the brand of Fanboy. And I think that's what's really helping you and really help elevate you to that next level as well. And it's you're only really at the start as well, which is quite amazing to say. And what you've already achieved is, but the way the athletes talk about you and the way the athletes see that you've got that care in them, like kind of the same way they all talk about Richard as well, that you have the athletes first.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that with Richard and his brand as well. I think he's on a different level just now, like. But as you say, we're kind of the same but different. The stuff he's doing is like he had Leon Edwards wearing his shorts the other day, and I was just like, man, if I could get Leon Edwards in a Fanboy t-shirt or something, man, you know. But I seen Paul Craig in like a Mark Ewan t-shirt and on one of his videos, you know. So that's a buzz as well, you know. Like seeing something like that wearing something you designed. But yeah, I on similar paths. But yeah, he's been a great help to me. Like, but I think you're right. Folk would see through it if you were doing it just for the money. You know, if it was just all about the money, nah, it wouldn't work. You know, folk would see through it.
Exactly as well. I was just about to say like that's how I found out about the beer was through Paul Craig's podcast. He was
Is
mentioning,
it?
he was mentioning the beer on the latest episode. They just put out the Leathered podcast, and that's when I first heard about it, and I was like, wow. I was like, that's an amazing idea. But I wanted to,
So wait. Paul Craig mentioned that beer.
I
Oh, what? We're gonna have to go back and watch that. That's class.
it was the latest episode is the Leather podcast because I'm a bit of a podcast nerd. I'm always out walking with my dog and stuff, so I'm always listening to podcasts. And I know the guy that he does the podcast with, Ross Cooper. It's a fantastic podcast. If you've not seen
I've
it,
seen that. I've seen some of it. I've seen some of it. It's
it's
good.
probably the funniest podcast I've ever watched. So I always try and watch it just because when I first started out podcasting, Ross was always very supportive to me. So I always try and watch his and support his, just kind of cross community as well. So that's what I'd heard about it. But one of the
Yes.
questions that I was wanting to ask you is it yourself that comes up with the designs, because the designs are amazing.
Yeah, aye. Just now it's me doing everything. Like so, it's madness. But yeah, so I've got a back. So my background is I did graphic design at college and things like that, and then spent years working on like club flyers and posters and all that kind of stuff, and then moved into a digital. So now I do like I design websites and apps and stuff. That's my full time job, and I do Fanboy on the side. So I've always done design. So yeah, all the designs are my designs. There are certain things that I'll do on the t-shirts where I'll commission somebody to do an illustration, or I'll commission somebody to do something, and I'll add that to the design. But the end product is mine. But say if there's an illustration, I'll get somebody else to do that, or it's something a bit more intricate, I might get somebody else to do it. But the majority of the designs are mine. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause it's always the Kunle ones that really jump out at me, like the Nigerian ninja ones, and you just look at them and you go, "This is like one of the t-shirts you would see on the official UFC website." Like it's just the quality of them is that good. Like they're amazing. Same with the Spider Mop ones there. We can see just
Spider
behind
Man
you.
ones, that one there, that's one of my. I keep saying them, like I love them all, like, but like that one came good. See, when you've got a name like Spider Man or like the Nigerian Ninja, it's just like it makes it like 10 times easier. The problem as well, the problem logo wasn't actually me that done that. It was I can't remember the name now. I should have given them a shout out, but I changed it slightly just to make it a bit easier to read. But the design company in Glasgow that did that. Apologies, can't remember their name. But yeah, like Nigerian Ninja, Spider Mop, like they're easy names to design for. Like so, things were like Mark Ewan. Like I had to delve a wee bit more into his personality to kind of find the design there. You know, noticed on his Instagram, he reads a lot of like motivational books, and he takes pictures of these quotes. So that's the idea behind his logo. It's supposed to look like an open book, and it's kind of got his initials on it. And then there was a quote that he posted as well about being champion minded. So I just kind of took that as well, and I've got champion minded across his tops. So if they've not got like a big kind of nickname, I kind of need to delve into who they are as a person more. So I've been doing that with Sean Clancy Jr. as well. Had a conversation with him yesterday and kind of got to know him a bit better. So I've got some. They're going to be pretty cool designs, I think, for Sean Clancy as well. And then Reece McEwan as well. He doesn't have a nickname, but he's actually got quite a cool reason because he basically said to me when I spoke to him, he was like, I said, "Have you got a nickname or have you got anything I can use?" Like, and he's like, "Well, the reason I don't have a nickname is because his dad wanted to give him a name that couldn't be shortened or like couldn't be given a nickname on." I'm sure he won't mind me telling him this. So he chose Reece, so it couldn't be like, Stuart couldn't be Stu, or it was like a name that would never get shortened or changed. So he felt because of that, he should just have his name and always have just Reece McEwan rather than having something else, because it kind of honoured that thing that his dad gave. So I kind of came up with like this stamp of like, this is my name, and it's like the idea of a monogram. Like the families would have like their initial stamped on things. So it's kind of that the idea behind Reese's is kind of like this. That's my name. I'm not changing it. I think it's like a kind of like a kind of like almost like a family seal or something or like a seal. That was the kind of idea behind that. So if there's not got nicknames, you kind of have to dig a bit deeper and kind of like come up with different kind of concepts.
Wow, that's just amazing. I was a wee bit lost for words there when you were talking. I was so engrossed in what you were saying, but no,
I
that's.
thought I thought it was blabbing as well, like just banting.
But where is it you see Fanboy going, or where would your goals be?
That's a great question. Like, I mean, recently I've been toying with the idea of doing a more like end to end kind of thing for athletes, so it goes beyond branding and merchandise. Where I mentioned the sponsorship packs and stuff, and I've kind of dabbled with the idea of getting into sponsorship management and things like that. So I don't know. I just think there's a lot I could do to kind of help the relationship between athletes and sponsors, and kind of maybe get more out of that. It's just a lot of work, so I don't know. I'm kind of still trying to figure that one out. But I would love to do that. There's loads of things I would like to do off in the future, but they're so far off in the future, like that they're just kind of dreams just now. But like even opening up, I'd like to do events and things like that. I've actually got an idea now that I'm kind of playing about with of not a museum but an exhibition, like a Scottish MMA exhibition. So I'm trying to pull together ideas for that. I've started a beginner's course at Submission Factory for jiu-jitsu, and you walk into their gym and it's just like belts, posters, medals, all this cool stuff, man. Pictures of like fight cards have been on. And I was just like, this is awesome. Like seeing all these belts sitting here. And I just thought to myself, like, there must be these kind of belts and trophies and medals and memories in gyms all around Scotland. And I thought it would be such a cool thing to like pull them into one exhibition and kind of like it wouldn't be a thing that was all there forever, but maybe like an exhibition that runs for 2 or 3 weeks somewhere in the central Scotland that kind of does what Fanboy, which is tell the stories behind the belts, tell the stories behind the things that they've brought back from all these fight cards from around Europe or even the world, and collate them together to tell like the story of MMA so far in Scotland. So there's things like that. I want to do events like that. So yeah, I want Fanboy to branch out into events as well, and maybe do like speaker nights almost as well. I think that'd be a cool idea, like speaker nights with fighters and things. It's a big thing in football, but I would pay money to go along and see a fighter speak about, I mean, the stories that Chis Duncan must have about American top team and even guys that fought in Europe and stuff in the local scene. Like I would love to sit down and listen to those guys, with a beer in my hand, and I think folk would be interested in that. So that's another thing, events and things, but they're all things that are all within the same kind of idea as Fanboy, which is telling the story of Scottish MMA and trying to promote it and trying to build it. But just now they're way off in the future, I think.
No, I think the ideas you've got there, I think they're absolutely fantastic. I love the idea of having what an exhibition of Scottish martial arts and just kind of learning how things came, like how it evolved, like where it what because that's the thing as well. I think we're really lucky with MMA where the guys that originally first started MMA are still here to kind of see the progression and kind of tell that story as well. And when you're talking about like, sitting listening to fighters speak, like that is something that's huge in the footballing community. But we've also seen like the likes of Michael Bisping start like he done that, and I think he done that really successfully with his Tales of the Octagon. So that is an opportunity that is there for you. But one of the questions what I was wanting to ask you when you said about your beginners course, because I went to my first jiu-jitsu class last night, and I've done Muay Thai for about 2 years, 2 years, and I've been avoiding the jiu-jitsu class like the plague.
Okay.
And last night I went and I was just like, I'm absolutely defenseless if I get on my back. Let's see, like the boy I was drilling and rolling with, like he's been doing it a few months, so he's progressed a bit as well, and it's just that feeling of helplessness when you're under when you were under something like that. And I was just wanting to know how you were finding getting involved in jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely loved it, man. I didn't think it was a big step for me to take it. Like I've done things in the past, like boxing training and things like that, but I've never done something as intense in that. Like, and then you know, so even just walking at the gym was a big thing for me. But what I would say is everybody was so welcoming, and the coaches and stuff like brilliant. Like take the time with you and stuff, show you things. Just really patient and all that. And I've absolutely loved it. I've missed the last couple sessions because I knackered my shoulder. Trying to defend some sort of armbar. I'm not sure which one it was, but I've loved it. It's been great, and that I love drilling and stuff. Like I've always loved like learning techniques and kind of taking my time and try to get them right and stuff. And then it's just interesting at the end when you do like kind of the live roll. Everyone goes out the window and you're just trying to survive. So I'm looking forward to like I'm not getting too excited about it now because I want to make sure that I can just keep turning up every week. That's all I'm trying to do is like turn up. And I know I've missed a couple because of my shoulder, but the progression will happen eventually, I think. But it's some sport like it's unbelievable.
And that's the thing as well. And I think you hit the nail on the head there with submission factory. And it's similar to like 99.9% of gyms is they're probably some of the most like combat gyms are probably some of the most welcoming places you can ever be. So if there is anyone that's listening here that wants to get involved in combat sports, whether it's boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, and is a bit worried about going, like one of the big things you hear is I need to get fit before I go to jiu-jitsu, or I need to get fit to go before I go in Muay Thai. Like, just go. Like, the only way you'll get fit for combat sports is by doing combat sports. And like you said, they're the nicest people in the world who will take the time to teach you.
Yeah, so it's the folk who are taking the class have been Callum Murray and Gaz Priestley, and they've been brilliant, man. And just it's good as well seeing that, like, when you see somebody at their level drilling the moves and all that as well. It's just amazing to watch, like, even from just like that perspective. Something here's somebody who's was fought on all these fight cards and have won belts and stuff like that, and they're drilling it in front of you. Do you know what I mean? So it's a privilege in that regard as well. But I would be the same. I would say, just like, if you're thinking about it, just go for it. Yeah, most gyms I think do the beginner courses as well. Like, the expectation, you're a beginner. Do you know what I mean? There's no expectation for you to go in there and start some. If you go in there right off the bat and start submitting, people are like, you're clearly not a beginner. But these people are really welcoming. In fact, one night Gaz actually said that if any of you beginners want to come into the kind of more advanced class, he's more than welcome. And although I was kind of bricking it, I was like, that's an opportunity. I can't just pass it up. So even though I was knackered from the beginner class, I went and rolled with the kind of more advanced people at Submission Factory, and I was blown away by just how nice they were and stuff. Like, not that I wasn't expecting to be nice, but just how patient, and asked me what I wanted to work on, what I was struggling with. Just really broke things down for me and showed me some new things and all that. And going against guys who are that advanced as well, just showed me how much more advanced those guys are, like, and how easy they were able to, like, pass guards and, like, just like dominate me basically. Like, it was just, that was a lesson in itself, but I would agree with you if you're interested in jiu-jitsu or something like that. I felt I had to do it as well as part of, like, working with these athletes and stuff. I was like, like, they're so inspiring. I was like, I want to be around these type of people. So that was one of the reasons for it as well, and also just to be more immersed into, like, the culture of MMA as well. That was the other reason I did it as well.
No, I completely agree with what you're saying there. That was the reason, like, because I'd done Muay Thai briefly when I was about 18 years old, and it wasn't until I started doing podcasting and doing interviews and talking to fighters, I felt that there was something that I was missing. Like, I was able to ask questions, but my actual understanding of the answers and my understanding of what was going on wasn't what it should have been. And that was just part of the journey for me. Was starting was, if I'm going to be good at interviewing, if I'm going to be able to talk to these fighters and not just ask them the same generic questions they get asked every week, and I need to kind of have an understanding of at least striking, like an understanding of positions, understanding of feints, why they're doing what they're doing, and sort of thing, and actually have a bit of appreciation for what they do as well, because that was one of the big things. That as soon as I get leg kicked for the first time, I was like, aye.
I can only imagine, man. Yeah, I went to kickboxing when I was younger. I went to one class and I got paired with, like, this really. I don't know. I must have been like early 20s, and I held a pad for one of these guys, and he must have just been like, "We'll see if you really want to do kickboxing," and he hammered this fucking pad, and I went home and my arms were all bruised, and I was like, "I'm not going back." I think it found out very quickly it wasn't for me, like, but I can only imagine what a leg kick feels like.
But if you could interview, like, or if not interview, sorry, if you could work with one fighter that you don't already work with, who would it be?
Anybody.
Aye.
Oh, I mean, it was hard not to say Conor McGregor just because of his pure stature. Like, if he was, like, putting stuff on Instagram that I'd done, like, I think that would game over. I think I'd explode, like. But um, obviously, that's not that's not going to happen. But see, to be honest, like, just working, like, as long as I can keep, like, I kind of had the thing like an athlete a month. I kind of tailed that back a wee bit just because I was getting so busy. But just anybody who wants to, what I would say, anybody who sees Fanboy and thinks that's something I want to get involved when you're a fighter and stuff like that, get in contact with me, drop me a DM. There's a contact form on the page. I'd love to. I mean, there's big fighters that obviously I would love to work with, like, that would be great for the exposure. Even people like, Paul Craig would be a good one. There's fighters I've messaged with designs. I messaged Stevie Ray before. I've messaged Jordan Vucenic. I've messaged Jojo. So I have sometimes took a punt on some bigger fighters, just to see if it would be something they're interested in. But for whatever reason, it wasn't for them. But um, I, I'm quite happy just like where I have just now, to be honest. But any big fight, I would be happy to work with anybody, to be honest. Like, there's no day I've got in my head that's like, oh, I can work with them. It'll be sorted. Like, but yeah, I think the kind of level I'm doing it at is perfect.
Yeah. No, that completely makes sense as well, and it's that way as well. You're investing in the next Paul Craig's, you're investing in the next Joanna Calderwood, Stevie Ray's, with the guys that are coming through, and some of the guys that you already have in your roster. I've got no qualms in my head that in 5 years' time there'll be guys sitting having the same conversations saying that they want to work with Mark Ewan, they want to work with Reece McEwan, they want to work with Sean Clancy. So I think it'll all come in good time.
The other thing as well, a lot of these bigger athletes have like exclusive deals with clothing brands or with like sports brands. Like I don't. I mean, this might be crazy, but I don't make any of the athletes sign contracts or anything with me. Like if you get a better opportunity, well, who am I to get you to sign a bit of paper and hold you back for doing something like that? That's not what it's about. So if something better comes along that kind of clashes with what I'm doing, like I wish you all the best and just on you go and do it. Like so, it gets a bit more complicated probably when you get into the the kind of the higher level of athlete and if they want to stick with me, if they do break into the big time and they want to stay with me, then great. But if other opportunities come along, then they have to take those opportunities.
No, absolutely, and that's part of the reason why the fighters will love working with me because it's loyalty. Loyalty works both ways. They'll show you kind of some loyalty to you show them as well. So they'll
Hope so.
appreciate all that. Uh,
No, I think so too.
but what the last thing I wanted to talk to you about was one of the guys that you're involved with, Chis Duncan. He's fighting this weekend on UFC 286. How do you before we touch on Chris's fight? How are you feeling on that fight card as a whole?
I think it's a great fight card. I think there's been a bit of like folk are never happy but I think it's a good fight card. I was looking at it just before I came on this call. I think the Gunner fight is that cancelled? Gunner Nelson fight.
Oh, is it?
Well, I
Oh,
don't know. I seen that. I went to look at the card, and so I was looking forward to seeing him. I seen him in Glasgow, and obviously, I was looking forward to his kind of return. So I think that one's fell out, and then obviously I was looking forward to the is it what's his name Wood. His fight fell out. Nathaniel, is it
Nathaniel
Nathan?
Wood and
Nathaniel.
Leron Murphy.
That one fell out. So obviously that's a bit disappointing as well. But you've got Jojo. She's obviously coming off a loss, and then the person she's fighting is at Carolina. She's coming off a loss to Molly McCann, I think. So that'll be an
Yeah,
interesting fight. Justin Gaethje, I mean, I'd go and watch him on his own. And then I think Usman before that Leon Edwards fight, I thought Usman was like was going to be one of the like the goats. Like, yeah, I still think he is. Like, he's heading that way. But seeing if Leon Edwards can do that again is it's so exciting. And then obviously you've got Chis Duncan, and then you've got Sam Patterson, who I'm interested in watching because he's kind of came up through the same route as Chis Duncan, and then Jack Shore as well. I think it's on the undercard as well. So there's loads of interesting fights. It's in London. The opportunity to go and see Chis Duncan, having worked with him for the last few months, is like a once in a lifetime for me. And I wasn't going until last week. I managed to get some tickets, kind of just last week. So I cannot wait to go down there and see him. Like he's worked so hard for that, and to see like one small part of his dream come true, like and he'll probably go into bigger things, but it's going to be phenomenal to hear those bagpipes.
no, absolutely. And like part of Chris's journey and how he documents his journey is so important because I think people need to know the sacrifice that MMA fighters need to go through. Like Chris has been uh, he's documented that he's spent about 6 or 10 weeks away from his baby daughter. So like just even small things like that are huge in a person's life. Like, and it's something that's not really appreciated because like in MMA, it's so unique that like football, if you lose 1 week, you get to make up for it the week after. Like you play weekly and it's a team sport. You can have an off game and then like make it back the next week. Like MMA, you don't really get that opportunity unless you're Kazmat Chimaev that fought twice in about 2 months, twice in a month. Like it's very
Uh,
rare that fighters fight more than 4 times a year. So just the sacrifices that they have to make sure that they're at their optimum when they get into that cage, especially in the UFC where what 1 or 2 losses and the UFC is a bit ruthless like that. So it's very interesting to see just the lengths that fighters go to make their dreams happen.
100%. That 10 weeks away. I mean, I feel guilty when I'm away from No, if we're going to be a weekend or a stag or something, I feel like bad missing them. So 10 weeks, I can't imagine it. Like it's a long time, and it's 10 weeks in a I don't it's sunny and that'd be good. But yeah, I've seen the dorms he stays in over there and stuff like that. And it's not like it's not a lack of luxury. He's there to like train and there to like work, you know. So it must be tough, like especially the way for his wee daughter and his fiance as well. So that and just all his family and he's away for his gym and his coach and that as well. And I know he gets welcomed over there really well. So, but it's not easy. Like, so to go and see him, like all that hard work that he's put in, I'm looking forward to seeing him at UFC. Like, it's going to be such a cool moment.
Aye, it's been a lot. It's been a long time coming for him, and you just feel that he's going to grab this moment with two hands, and he's going to put on a show. And that's you don't often get to see like a UFC card that has three Scottish fighters on it. Like I know there's some people like to contest Casey O'Neill because she moved over to Australia, but
Forgot she was on that.
she's from Kilmarnock, so she's
Aye,
she was born about 10 minutes down the road where I'm originally from. So she's just as Scottish as the rest is. And then you've got
it's
Joanne
it's
Wood,
the it's the accent that throws people, I think.
and I think it's the fact she calls herself a Scozzy. I think
Oh, so she does. Aye.
uh,
I'm looking forward. I've followed her for quite a while as well, and I had completely forgot about that. That would be a good one. She's brilliant as well. Like she's like if she hadn't got that injury, like I did, it'd been an interesting year for her had she not got that injury.
yeah, because that was the thing as well. It seemed that her and Erin Blanchfield were on the same kind of trajectory at that time, and you just felt that they were going to meet at some point. And I still think they will down the line. But Erin Blanchfield, she's a fight or two a fight or two away for the title, I would say. So she might not get to fight her next. But there's a lot of good fights for Casey O'Neill out there, and Jennifer Myers it's a very tough fight for him. It's a very it's a very interesting fight as well, how that'll go.
Yeah, I'll need to look into that one a wee bit. I'm not too clued up on a opponent like but I think same with any fight card. Like if you just dig into it a little bit, you'll find the stories behind the fights, and I think that always helps. Like when there's a wee bit of like background to a fight. I can't wait. Like and I'm going to Cage Warriors the night before as well, so uh, I'm going to be like MMA'd at my nut by the time the weekend's finished.
Is the Cage Warriors the night before? Is that the one Aiden
Uh,
Stevenson's fighting on?
I'm not sure. I know it's Jordan Vigenik who's headlining it, but I'm not sure to be honest.
Right, okay, because I keep getting them, I get a lot of them mixed up. So it seems that they're in London every other week. With
I
Cage Warriors, they're down there quite regular.
I got quite a busy schedule, and then we've got Manchester obviously in April, which I'm going down to as well. Um, I'm going down there with Richard actually for Richard for Ettriger, so he's got my ticket, so
Is that
I'll be going down there then.
that's the car? That's the one Reese is on as well, isn't it?
That's Reese is on that. He's got a busload of people going down to that, so it's going to be. And the designs were kind of based on his support. Is the new designs for the they're called the Takeover. His t-shirts they're kind of inspired by the Hacienda and the Factory 51 designs that Peter Saville did for Manchester back in like the kind of 90s. So because there's loads of folk going down there a bus and it's always like a party atmosphere, I kind of tapped into that club kind of culture. So that's going to be a fun night as well.
The support he takes down is absolutely amazing. I've had the privilege of actually being on one of the buses and
Oh,
getting,
really?
getting to talk to his friends and getting to talk to his family a wee bit more, and just the support he's got is it's absolutely incredible. And he's one of the fighters you could just see him he's going to the very top. He's very see him when you listen to him in interviews and the way he speaks. It's very unique, and I'd mentioned this to him yesterday. Like sometimes when you listen to him, it motivates you in other aspects of your life because he was talking about. I listened to him in the Violent Money podcast, and he was talking about fighting, but he was talking about where he is now as an apprenticeship. So
I've seen that.
I and well, I feel the way he talks about things is very unique. So just hearing them talking about that, it always kind of motivates you in different ways of your life as well. So it got me thinking about podcasting and just realizing that you might not be where you want to be yet, but just you need to put in the hard yards. You need to do that apprenticeship. Like you need to do all the Zoom interviews before you can get your own studio and stuff like that. Like the dreams that I have as a podcaster, like I need to keep doing what I'm doing, and hopefully that'll get there in time.
Yeah, no, he like all the like got a great relationship with all the fighters. He's really switched on in terms of like all aspects of it. Like he's got side projects going on. That's he's got his coffee. He's really involved with the merch side of things as well. And I'll get a wee voice note from him every now and again. I'll just be like, I don't know how he does it. He seems to know when to send them because it's times when I need that kind of like pep talk. But he sends some really nice voice messages just about like keep going and you're doing the right thing and you're growing and just nice things. Like kind of that motivate me to keep continuing on. So he's got a good mindset when it comes to that kind of stuff. And it kind of it transfers across like when you hear him speak.
Have you tried his coffee?
No, I haven't.
It's
No,
fantastic.
that's a good eye. I don't
Aye.
like. I've kind of tried to like kind of reduce my coffee intake a wee bit, but I do love a good coffee, so maybe I need to try it.
Yeah, like it was one of the original it was the original blend that I tried. I know he's got the new one out, like the blue one, but it was like the black and red one that I tried. Yeah, it was phenomenal. I was pleasantly surprised how good it was.
I need to give it a shot then. I will buy something and give it a go.
But thank you very much for your time, Ryan. It's been hugely appreciated. Do you have anything you want to shout out before we wrap up the interview?
Um, I'd probably just shout out all the guys I work with. Like I'm not going to name them all. I mean, there's not that many. I probably could name them, but all the fighters because without them, like Fanboy doesn't exist, and all of them have been really supportive and have helped me in numerous different ways, and not just to sell their merch, but helped me as a person and helped me as a business as well. So I really appreciate all their help. Thanks to you for inviting me on. Do you mind if I shout out another couple of podcasts just because
Aye,
they've been?
absolutely.
There's a guy called Edward from Beyond the Strikes who's chatted to me right from the very start, and he's posted some of my fight t-shirts and stuff like that. So he's been great. And the Fight Week podcast, the guy from there has given me a number of shouts out, which I really appreciate. And obviously Richard has been great as well. I hope I've not missed anybody there. I watch fighters do these like bits at the end, and I'm like, they always say, oh, I'm sure I've missed somebody, and I'm just in the exact same thing. Like I'm sure there's somebody I'm missing, but no, I think that's it. Aye. And then I better say my wife and my family. My wife's amazing. She's not. I'm a guy who's got a lot of things on the go, so she's really supportive and she helps with a lot of this. So, just a shout out to her. get in trouble if I didn't do that.
No, that was brilliant, to be honest. And I know some guys that do podcasts get pissed off when other folk mention podcasts on their show, but that's not really what it should be about. You should be letting other podcasts get shouted out because it's a big community at the end of the day, and we should always thriving to help each other. And I was just, as you were talking there, I was just writing these podcasts down because, like I said, I'm always out with my dog or something like that, and I'm always looking for new things to listen to. I think I've seen Beyond the Strikes on my Instagram quite a bit, so I'll try and give his stuff a wee bit more of a listen as well.
I know he's a nice guy. Like I don't know, I can't remember how we connected, but he's always been quite supportive in that. So it's been good. Like
And your website is just fanboy.com, and your Instagram is
fa-
just fanboy.
it's fanboymma.com and it's fanboy at fanboy MMA for my Instagram as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Just in case anyone wanted to see any of the designs or wanted to buy anything, because
No,
uh,
appreciate that.
no worries at all. But I fully appreciate your time. I know how busy you are, so I really appreciate you taking the time to come out and talk to us today.
I appreciate you taking the time as well, and I keep doing what you're doing because it's really great. Like, and people need that platform to to reach people and stuff. So, I keep doing what you're doing. Like, it's good.
Thank you, and thanks very much for listening, guys.